Okay, Oscar fans, we are days away from DGA, and we pundits must confess we don't know what the hell is going to win Best Picture at the Oscars, and probably Best Director. But DGA is going to be very telling, and we have two guys here who pretend they know, because that's our job as pundits. We have Chris Rosen from Entertainment Weekly and Michael Hogan from Vanity Fair. Chris, let's start with you, because you always have the most entertaining,
Oh yeah.
sometimes the most preposterous, in a good way. I mean that in a loving way. Prediction for these things. Let's start with DGA. Who wins DGA Saturday?
I'm gonna go with George Miller. I think I feel like it's building towards a George Miller Best Director win. I could see him kind of like getting that honor at the DGA and kind of for a Lifetime Achievement Award situation, but also people really love Mad Max. I think directors really love Mad Max. It's the way it's made is incredibly, it's an auteurist piece. I feel like it has his stamp on it throughout. So my pick is George Miller.
Michael, straighten this guy out, please. Because I'm with you. I think it's going to be. You're leaning toward Inarritu, right?
No, well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. Part of me thinks it could be Ridley Scott, just as out of the perverse thing of being like, this is what should have happened. On the other hand, that doesn't make any sense because basically the same people who voted on the Oscar nominations are the Directors Guild people, right? So my theory
is 16,000 DGA members versus 350 members of the Academy Directors Branch.
I could see it being Ridley Scott just because I think people were sort of shocked and people thought that he was possibly going to win the Oscar for The Martian. But yeah, I mean, Inarritu probably. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. This is the weirdest race. I think it'll probably be Inarritu, I guess. I think Inarritu, what he did, I think directors probably understand that, like, not many of them would have done that, gone through that hell, although I think probably George Miller went through hell, too. I don't know. Tom, you straighten us out.
Yeah, here's my Inarritu argument, okay? Wait, and then we'll let Chris shoot it down. Is that it's the biggest movie in America right now, and has been for the last several weeks during this kind of peak awards period right here. It has the most Oscar nominations. He's in that honeymoon period. Inarritu is they love you, and they'll come back to you again, whether it's consecutive or not. And I think that the movie has what Mad Max doesn't have, which is snob appeal. It has gravitas in a way that Mad Max is a genre movie. Now, that said, Mad Max is sweeping every single Guild Award, and usually that carries its director to best, to the DGA and the Oscars, in which case we face the most horrible conclusion of all, and that is Chris Rosen is correct.
Here's my thinking for George Miller. I agree with you about all the Guild Awards too, but I just feel like the last few years we've seen this where it's like the spectacle director wins out over the prestige director. So we saw that at 12 Years a Slave and Gravity and Quran won, and then we've seen that with Ang Lee and Life of Pi. I just think, and I understand that year was different because Argo and Ben Affleck were not nominated, but I just feel like that's kind of like the split we're going to see this year with with those two films. I think that we're going to see George Miller win for Mad Max, and then you could make the argument The Revenant wins Best Picture. I actually don't think it will, but we'll see.
Wait, now you're talking about.
I went into Oscars, but yeah, I moved ahead.
But they're all three the same, kind of in a way, yes. Yeah. So Chris, your Best Picture prediction at the Oscars?
My Best Picture prediction right now is Big Short, but I could see any number of movies winning, including The Revenant and Spotlight. I just feel like there's no buzz on Spotlight, even though it keeps winning at the end of nights during these awards, like the Critics' Choice Awards and the SAG Awards. But I can't picture what other award it's going to win, and I don't think that's a great play for a Best Picture. So I'm going to go Big Short.
Okay, so Michael, I just heard from Pete Hammond yesterday that at the PGA, which has this uncanny knack of predicting Best Picture, of course, at the Oscars, because they use the same voting system, and they both have about 6,000 voters, that Big Short won there only by 3 votes, and that the 4 films at the top of the heap there were very close, neck and neck and neck and neck. So
that story is going around. I've been telling that story too. I heard the same thing. Yeah, I think it's as close to a dead heat as you can imagine, and it really is basically a toss-up. I think I have a theory that probably Revenant will win because it is both spectacle and, as you said, it has a kind of a prestige factor. It also Spotlight feels a little small, but I do think Spotlight is a film that like consistently has quality. If you watch it the second time, it's even better than the first time. And I haven't heard anybody say like, oh, I didn't really like or get Spotlight. Whereas Big Short, I've heard some people who kind of fit the profile of Oscar voters. They aren't Oscar voters, but you know, they were kind of saying like Big Short, I just seemed a little overhyped by the time I saw it. And same went for Mad Max, actually. So I feel like those movies work great as discoveries. Like, oh my God, I'm so surprised how great Mad Max is. I'm so surprised how great The Big Short is. But when it's delivered to you on a screener as this is one of the best movies of the year, is it the best movie? I don't know that it takes you over the top. And I think you're right about the box office stuff with The Revenant and the Leo factor. And frankly, you know, as far as director goes, I don't know if this is a factor or not, or where Oscar voters' heads are at, but it actually gives them a chance to reward sort of a person of color to give director to Iñárritu. So, so I don't know. I think the only reason I'm hesitant is that he won last year, but I just feel like that just could be 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm. Chris, what do you think?
I mean, I could see The Revenant winning. The reason I think Spotlight could be running third behind in this case. I think Spotlight's a great movie. Everyone seems to like it. And usually I would say that the consensus would win out then, right? Because we've seen that where it's like the more polarizing movies, like which I would say Big Short is probably a polarizing movie. And even The Revenant obviously seems to be certainly polarizing among journalists. I don't know about Oscar voters, but like people either really seem to like it or really dislike it. And Spotlight is a movie everyone can agree on. But when we have those everyone can agree on movies, and I mean, this is no fault of Spotlight because it's a very well-made and entertaining movie as much as it can be, but it's usually like an entertaining movie, like an Argo. You're not going to sit there and be like, Argo is a fun movie to watch. Like, you could pop that in and be like, this is fun. No one is going to want to, like, based on the subject matter and because of how serious it is, Spotlight is not that kind of consensus movie to me. You know, it's not that kind of blow you away artistic achievement that something like 12 Years a Slave was, where it kind of was undeniable that had and should have won Best Picture. So that leads me to believe it'll be between The Revenant and Big Short. And then, you know, I think The Revenant winning or Big Short winning would confirm a lot of things that people say about the Academy right now, which is that it's overwhelmingly male and overwhelmingly white, and those are two very white male movies about the, you know, the cons and trials and tribulations of white men. So, you know, they both are. I mean, you know, Big Short obviously is about white men screwing up the world, so there's a little bit of a subversive twist to that. But The Revenant is really just about a white guy getting, you know, revenge on another white guy in the end. So I feel like it definitely works. Either one of those work into the ready-made narrative of the Academy. So,
well, another thing that what you're saying, which I think is true, like Spotlight, I may find Spotlight to be a film that I could watch over and over again, but I'm a journalist, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's my world. And I think for people working in Hollywood, who are the people who vote on the Oscars, it may be less massively compelling, and certainly all the kind of amazing things, I think it does amazing things, but they're all on the subtle end of the spectrum, whereas Revenant just is like cinema with a capital C. The more I think about it, the more I think it's just going to be The Revenant. I think Big Short is like a cool movie. It's awesome that it kind of came out of nowhere to be such a part of this thing, but I don't know.
Tom, you would know this. I mean, historically, what is the last Best Picture winner to only win 2 Oscars? Because if The Big Short or Spotlight win, they're only going to win one other Oscar, right? Because we're all assuming that Big Short's going to win Best Adapted Screenplay and Spotlight's going to win Best Screenplay. So then it would only win a second Oscar. And even like Argo and 12 Years a Slave still got that third Oscar because we're assuming that Mad Max is going to win Best Editing, as it has won like all those Guild Awards and been really strong there. So The Revenant, at least you could see winning like 3 or 4 or 5 with Leo and some of the tech stuff, and then, you know, maybe it wins cinematography, and then Iñárritu perhaps. So I'm interested to see that. Can Big Short or Spotlight actually even win with only one other Oscar win? I don't. What do you have the history of your fingertips? What do you got?
You knew I would have the answer.
I knew you would.
You have to go back to The Greatest Show on Earth, to a movie that only won 2 Oscars. But there have been quite a few that have won 3.
Right, many have won 3. But I don't think either of those films can get to 3, even with Best Picture. Like, Christian Bale is not going to upset Sylvester Stallone and give The Big Short a possible 3rd Oscar. And nothing on Spotlight really feels like, I don't think maybe the best shot they have for another Oscar would be Rachel McAdams in supporting actress, but I don't think that's going to happen either. And you usually win one acting award with the Best Picture win, and I don't think that's going to happen for either of those movies. So I don't know. And then Revenant will have Leo. So I'm talking myself into the Revenant, but I still think it might be Big Short.
I know. I like this Nate Silver approach here.
Well, the movie. Here's what's really peculiar about this year is that we have, if you throw Mad Max into the mix, we theoretically have 4 movies that could win, right? So in the past, it's always been 2 movies, 12 Years a Slave versus Gravity or Boyhood versus Birdman. But when you suddenly have a much more packed front of the line, you need fewer votes to win. And remember how this kooky ballot works, which is it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranking that they do. So it may be that if Spotlight is the movie that consistently gets in the 2 and 3 slot, it may win by the 2 and 3 votes, let's say, right? Or Big Short, they go, it's an important subject. It's got all those big classy stars in it. My big vote is Revenant up here, but yet, as I think you said earlier, Chris, either love it or hate it. So maybe then it's not the one that floats near the. So what movie is the one that is your number 2 or 3, regardless of what your number 1 is? What do you think everybody's number 2 and 3 vote is?
I'll give you a twist. The Martian. And I've been waiting for The Martian to maybe get that Argo boost. We were talking about this off air, Tom and I. But I was waiting for it to happen, and it didn't. It never did, because I really thought after Ridley's snub there would be a wave of like, well, I can't believe he didn't get nominated, and maybe we buoy Argo up to The Martian up to the top, a la Argo. So I could see The Martian actually maybe being a surprise contender, because I feel like that is a movie that everyone can agree on, has a lot of consensus, and unlike Spotlight, is much more like Argo in that it's super entertaining, and you're going to just be like, oh yeah, I love The Martian. What a great fun time I had watching that movie. So, I mean, if there's a giant twist ending to this award season, it maybe is The Martian.
That's not going to happen.
I know.
I think that I don't know how aware like actual Oscar voters are of the sort of like conversation that we're all having, but I think that it is a situation where you have 3 to 4, you have 4 basically front runners, and so I would assume that the number 2 would be drawn in general from that group, and if it is Revenant, it could be a really sorry if I'm not allowed to say that on here. I think maybe it's just my prejudice about Oscar voters. I think number 2 is going to be Spotlight or Big Short, not Mad Max. I just think that like unless you're crazy for Mad Max, you're not going to be like, The Revenant was such a great movie, what a great movie, and also that Mad Max. Like I think you're either kind of all in for Mad Max. I think we're a little bit like, do we know too many movie bloggers?
Yes.
And it's to me that's the 4th place slot, and so then. Then knowing what we know about Hollywood and the power of star power and Christian Bale and Brad Pitt versus, Rachel McAdams and Michael Keaton, it's probably The Big Short.
I just don't think The Big Short is going to be a consensus pick, though. I just think too many.
No, let's say number 2. What's the number 2? What's your number 2 movie of the year?
I don't think it's going to be The Big Short. I still think it's The Martian. I don't think The Big Short could be on number 2 because I think too many people are going to be like, that was really off-putting. I liked it. I know a lot of people who liked it, but I think there are aspects of that movie that people will not like.
But I think that's how it won.
I'm just going to remind you came into this conversation saying Big Short was going to win Best Picture.
I still have it winning.
Point that out.
I still have it winning, but maybe I'll pick The Martian after we hang up. Well, the reason I have The Big Short winning is because it won PGA, and I just don't want to go against PGA. I think statistically it's been a very strong indicator, and obviously they have the preferential ballot. So it leads me to believe that The Big Short is definitely in the driver's seat right now. And if something crazy like Adam McKay winning at the Directors Guild happens, then we'll know for sure that it is.
Got it.
Right. That's the clarity we could get from DGA is Spotlight or Big Short wins at DGA, then the Best Picture race is over. Otherwise, we're on our own.
What about the other races, Tom?
I guess.
Yeah, are all the acting? Who's gonna win supporting actress? You guys.
Oh my God!
I mean,
that one's impossible.
I could see it being anyone, but I think we've really kind of settled on Alicia Vikander. Though I think to me, it feels like she's still winning this for Ex Machina because no one has talked about the Danish Girl. It's kind of really has no buzz, but she obviously has all the buzz. So I think if she does win, it would be an odd one because it's really a win just for the actress more than the performance and like kind of like crowning this breakout actress for a performance that maybe wasn't even her best performance of the year, which you don't really see that often. So I'm interested. I still think she's going to win, but I'm interested to see who can maybe upset her there. I think, like I said, I think Rachel McAdams has a strong possibility, especially if Spotlight is much more loved than we thought. I think she could be like a very steady number 2, and then like Kate Winslet probably in there as well, just because she's Kate Winslet.
Yeah, I'm again on this sort of like downer theory that Oscar always makes me sad. That's mean to say, but I'm kind of coming around to the idea it's probably going to be Kate Winslet. I just think she's just really famous. Like, people are vaguely aware that movie, she was supposed to be good in the movie. I don't think people will actually have watched it, and I think they'll just give it to her. I don't know. It's weird. I can't see Rooney Mara. Yeah. It's Jennifer Jason Leigh's the last one?
Yeah, I don't think Jennifer Jason Leigh and Rooney Mara really have a big shot, I would say.
But I agree that Kate Winslet has a really good shot. She won the Globe. Her performance is transformative. I mean, she's a famous person I knew 10 minutes into the movie. I'm still looking for Kate Winslet. I heard she's in this movie. I went, oh my God, that's her. I think a lot of us had that experience.
Well, and you know what? I honestly think that movie works better in like highlight clips, or her performance works better in highlight clips than in the actual movie, because the problem. I mean, I think that movie is just flawed. It's not anyone's fault. But also, I thought her performance was kind of like uneven, and it's very difficult to play the same character over many years. Mm-hmm. But individual scenes, when you see them in a clip, she looks awesome. And at some point, that starts to be what people are seeing and thinking about. So I don't know. I could really see her winning, actually.
I doubt the Academy will think of this at all. But as somebody who's covering this, the idea that Leo and Kate could win on the same night is just such catnip for the internet. And I mean, if the Academy Awards actually wanted to make their show buzzy, maybe people would be like, let's just make this happen, because the moment would be really special to have them both win on the same night, his first Oscar. The backstage photos, everything would be just great. So I'm pulling for that, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Chris and I will be just fighting for who can hit publish on the pre-written post faster.
Just such a joke, but true.
Yeah, true, totally.
But outside of that category, though, I think the three of us should agree on this. The other categories are completely without any kind of drama, right? They're totally locked in. We know who's going to win. Leo is the most slam dunk winner for Best Actor probably since Daniel Day-Lewis, I guess, since Lincoln and stuff. And Brie Larson seems very much in the winning for Best Actress, and Stallone I still think is going to win Best Supporting Actor. I guess he could be vulnerable. The only problem is I don't know who else could win in that category. I thought Christian Bale would mount a kind of offense on Stallone, but after he couldn't even win the SAG award, not against Stallone, when Stallone wasn't even nominated and they picked Idris Elba, who probably should have won in this category anyway at the Oscars. I just think Stallone's going to walk away with it.
It's the Veteran Achievement category, too, where they tend to win here, and he has an IOU. He didn't win any Oscar the year of Rocky when his movie won Best Picture. So, and also at the Golden Globes and Critics' Choice when Sly did win, the passion of the audience response was very telling, I think. They came roaring out of their seats, everybody did, to cheer him on.
Well, it's a story that people love, that he had put this franchise to bed, and then he was persuaded to bring it back out, which is a very risky thing to do, and the fact that it worked out so beautifully and the movie's so good. And I think it's just like there's a lot more going on than just the performance, but the performance is also really, really moving and good. I think it's surprisingly, you're just like, wow, I forgot this guy can really act.
I think he's great in it. I love the movie. But one thing I'm always wary of with these things. We'll let Tom answer that phone.
Yeah. Woo.
Are you in your office, Mike?
Yes. Where are you?
I'm in. I don't have an office anymore, so I'm in a conference room, or like a little cubby hole, basically.
Oh, okay. You have like a desk.
I have like a desk, like key.
Open plan.
Open plan.
What's that?
No, nothing. We were just talking shop. But I'll pick back up. I'll pick back up what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
So I was going to say, with regards to Stallone, I'm always a little wary of the Lifetime Achievement Awards because we've seen that kind of before where it's like a lot of people maybe thought Mickey Rourke could win Best Actor for The Wrestler, and then he didn't win, and Sean Penn won. Lauren Bacall, I think, was who was against, Tom, you'll remember this, who was against Juliette Binoche. And,
that was Lauren Bacall.
So Lauren Bacall, I feel like there was a lot of push for her to win for the Mirror. Angel Has Two Faces, or Mirror Has Two Faces?
Mirror Has Two Faces, right.
And she didn't win, and it was like a big upset. And we've kind of seen that happen. There's nobody really in this category who would be able to pull that kind of upset, like I said. But I just could see something happening on Oscar night where it's like Stallone's maybe if he's not as well loved as we thought, or something happens there and he ends up losing because it's hard maybe to win that Lifetime Achievement Award because maybe you feel like as a voter, maybe you're at the point where it's like, well, everyone's going to pick Stallone, so I'll throw so-and-so at the top, that kind of thing, and then you end up not getting the vote. So I do agree with Mike, though. It's a great performance, so it wouldn't be like a sham Oscar. But we'll see, I guess.
Is there any chance that Saoirse Ronan beats Brie Larson?
Not anymore.
I thought maybe. I mean, she's been so charming.
She had a shot, but when she didn't pick it.
And she's so charming and like been really, really very. I think her appearances on talk shows and stuff, she's really done a great job getting herself out there. But I just think Brie Larson is locked in. I think Brie Larson is winning, and I mean, I think Room is a fabulous movie, and it's very much, even though it's such a difficult subject matter, it's very. I wouldn't want to call it watchable, but I watched it at home on a screener recently again, and it holds up. It's not boring. You're kind of like sucked in, and the way it's paced is really strong. But I think most people will even vote for her without even, if an Academy voter probably would vote for her without even watching it, let's say, because I think she's the front runner. It's like she's great, sure, like put her down,
right?
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
it's like, oh, that's the gal in the room with the kid.
I'll vote for her.
All right.
And
that's pretty good.
And the kid is so cute, and I think they've done a really great job of putting the kid out there for Room.
That's true.
And kind of like, even though he didn't get nominated, I feel like he's been so attached to Brie the whole season, and even in like on the red carpets and stuff, and on award shows, that it almost feels like, oh, we're like giving this little cute kid an Oscar too while we're at it. So I think there's like a whole package deal.
I'm with Katie Rich that it's good they didn't give the nomination to the little kid. It's too much for a small child, but he'll have a fun night.
He'll be great. He'll meet, who could he meet? He already met Leo. Maybe he'll meet like Sean Penn or something, or whoever else is gonna be there. I don't know who's gonna be there.
John Cusack,
Yeah, John Cusack and Tom Cruise will take selfies with. We'll write him up the next day. Vanity Fair and EW. They'll be featured. It'll be great.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Tremblay sans. The Tremblay sans.
But Mark Ruffalo or Tom Hardy could theoretically win if their movies take Best Picture, I guess.
Yes. I mean, I was always under the... To me, I thought Ruffalo... I knew he was going to get nominated, but I think there were other male performances in this, and I love Mark Ruffalo, but there were other performances in that movie that I thought were stronger in the supporting actor, but Ruffalo had that one big scene that has his Oscar clip, and like that kind of gave him the nomination. Hardy, I love in The Revenant. I think he's the best part. He's awesome in it. Complete wild card. I just don't think he's going to win. I think that was the nomination there was enough of the victory, let's say.
I'm starting to think that maybe Keaton should have run lead.
I mean, I think Keaton, if he would have run lead, might have got nominated because the lead actor category was pretty soft this year, as we saw. And I could have seen him.
That was a category fraud effort. I think he's basically the lead of that movie, I think. Anyway, it's an ensemble. All right. Have we done it? Did we cover everything?
Yeah, we're done. We got it all figured out. I don't know what any of our predictions are, but we've managed to talk each other out of our earlier
predictions. I'm going to go back right now, make Revenant my best picture prediction.
Revenant's best. Well, so director, or is it? I think it's Revenant. I think it's Revenant for picture.
You're going
director. I think splits are unusual. We're in like a weird split world, but I don't think split is normal.
I mean, I think if Big Short or Spotlight wins, then we'll see a split. But I think if you put the Revenant there, I think last year I really thought we were going to get a split with Birdman winning Best Picture or maybe Boyhood winning Best Picture. Last year was weird because you could have had a split either way, right? And then ended up just going chalk with Birdman. So I'm expecting a split again this year, but I mean, maybe in the end it is just Inarritu and The Revenant. I mean, clearly he's making a movie that he is a filmmaker that the Academy loves, and audiences. I mean, this movie's made a crazy amount of. I'm actually shocked at how much money it's made, and I think that could end up being a big incentive to give it more awards than maybe we think.
Well, and you kind of have to have a reason to split. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to vote for one person for director and then not vote for their film for Best Picture or vice versa. So it really only makes sense when there's something like the Argo situation where you're basically doing a protest vote.
Or like Gravity in 12 Years, where you could argue Gravity is like a once in 25 years spectacle that you've never seen before. And
I mean, I hate to say it, but you could also argue that the Oscar voting body was saying, like, yeah, we know we have to vote for 12 Years to win Best Picture, but this is the movie we actually liked. I hate to say it, but that was the message I got from that.
On that note, which I think is a very astute observation.
See you at the movies, Tom.
Yes, right. Right. So go in and update your predictions, and then after DGA, I think we're going to have some clarity. And let's hope that they coalesce behind one movie, because there's nothing worse for us pundits than being wrong.
Right. I know. I can't take another 35% showing. I just it's not good for my morale.
Ooh. Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. All right, bye.
Bye.